Good evening. We've already called the meeting to order before going into executive session. Now we're reconvening an open session. And before we begin, I'd just like to read a statement about public participation to help people understand how it operates. The public is welcome to make comments or read prepared statements during this portion of the meeting. We ask that these be limited to 3 minutes. We're happy to receive any written statements you may have. Please understand that criticisms of individual staff members are not allowed during this time, but should you wish to file a complaint about an individual, we have a process for receiving and considering those. Also, the committee does not respond directly to public comments or engage in verbal exchanges during this time. Our policy is to listen to your statement or question at the moment and then either provide you with a response to your inquiry after it has been looked into or make your topic a future agenda item, so that more information can be provided to everyone. So, welcome visitors. Anyone like to speak?
Yes. Where do I go?
Right there where the microphone is next to the laptop.
My name is Terry Capucci, and I've been here before. I just had a few things. I hope you're all enjoying your summer. It seems like it's been a short one, for me anyways. It's almost time to go back to work. I just wanted to read a little statement. I'm a homeowner in this district, and I've been here for 30 years, and I had some concerns with some of the performing issues that were going on in our district. Some of the schools aren't performing well, and when that happens, people start pulling their kids from our district, and they start moving out of our town. And I'm coming to talk about this as somebody who is very stressed out right now and having anxiety, so please excuse me because I'm starting to get really hot, and I apologize
it's pretty
for that.
warm in here.
I think the microphone does that to me when I'm sitting down, so please. Anyways, I'm hoping that the Gill Montague residents as well as the school committee will listen to some of this data that I have found that I've gotten from the parents, the community, and some websites. It's pretty accurate, and I have done some fact checking, so you can check DESE and the U.S. News websites for some of this. But I was concerned about the 2018 and 19 school year where we lost 40 students in the freshman class, and then this year we've lost 30 more students for 19 and 20 coming in, and meaning that it looks like from the last I got the information that there was only 26 freshmen coming into the upcoming class, and that's kind of scary. A lot of our students, the seniors and juniors, going to GCC because they can't get their classes here. The teacher salary is 7th lowest in the state. And in the spring, this is from U.S. News, who ranks the high schools, that in the spring of 2013, we were at 41 in the state. And in 2019, we were 231 in the state. That's a really huge drop. And as somebody who pays taxes, the thing that makes me most concerned is that if I need to sell my house, which is very possible in the near future, it keeps the value of your property down when nobody wants to come to the district. They don't have a place for their kids to go to school that they feel comfortable in. So I wanted to bring that up, and also that, in 2012 we were at a level 4, and then in 2013 we were at a level 3. And we're on the verge of level 4 again, which is now referred to as focus/targeted group. But this means that our district is going to require assistance or intervention from DESE again, and that's going to be devastating for our community. So I wanted to just, I'm hoping that by bringing this up that, any responsible financial increases that are going to take place in this district, I'm hoping that it goes towards students and programs, because I'm afraid our district is just going to implode. The other thing that I had some concern about is the use of social media with the school district and how they're using it. And I feel strongly that as a resident in the district, I'd like to see upbeat and positive things coming from the administration. Anytime anything is being posted on social media, it really needs to be positive. For example, I have a public post that's brought a lot of negative feedback, and because it's a public post by the administration, I expect that I should be okay here. It was a post from Mr. Sullivan on his Facebook page. So he posted it says, former Sheffield Elementary School teacher Lori White was a teacher with non-professional status who was non-renewed at the conclusion of the school year. And due to Massachusetts privacy laws, the district is unable to provide additional information in this matter. we've gotten a lot of phone calls. People have commented on this, and some of the things that I'm seeing here, I'm just going to take, just little snippets. I don't want to read the whole thing because I only have 3 minutes. And
Yeah, I don't think reading
Other people's comments?
I'm not reading who it is. I'm just reading like a list because he posted in a public forum, so actually it should be okay to read because this came from the superintendent. So.
I don't think it's.
But why would we read other people's
somebody else's?
I'm sorry. The reason that I'm reading some of the comments, just brief ones, is because when it says, why would someone post this on a social media page, or, this is embarrassing, or I'm embarrassed to have my children attend the district, things like that concern me.
Anonymous or anonymous.
I'm not reading names. It's anonymous.
Exactly.
You can.
That's
the
the
point.
problem.
We're in a public.
Anybody can
if they
post
want to come
anything.
and repeat
Okay,
those, that's
so,
totally
then I understand, that's no problem, I won't read that. Thank you for that information, but what I would like to say is that I find it a little concerning that our administration is now posting on social media when someone is being let go from the district, and I noticed he only did it for one person, and there was another person let go this year, and it wasn't on there, so I just want to make sure that our district is not getting in the habit of letting people know that when someone is not being renewed, we're just going to post it on social media because that's inappropriate and it's not good for the district. That's really what this is about. You're smiling, you think it's funny. I don't think it's funny, Mr. Sullivan.
That's not appropriate.
I'm sorry, I'm just responding to a smile. But anyways, point is that I'm here because I do pay taxes and I live in this town and I've been here for 30 years and I watched my son go through this district and had no issues. This was a fantastic school system. I backed it up all the way. And I'd really like to see it get back to that because this is a community that I care about and I'm truly invested in. Positive things coming from this administration is crucial. And the only way we're going to see that change is if we do. And I want to thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay. Heather, would you do the upcoming important events?
Oh, yes.
I'm sure there'll be others too if people have them.
Oops, I'm on the wrong thing, sorry. Okay, so August 24th is new student orientation at the middle school from 6 to 7:30. August 26th is the ice cream social at Gill at 5:30. August 26th, the staff also returns to the high school. August 29th and 30th, the preschool and kindergarten have orientation at Hillcrest from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. August 29th, students from 1 through 12 return to school. September 5th, the middle and high school have picture day. Oh, that's quick. Oh, and there's one more. September 25th is open house for the middle and high school as well.
Haley?
Just a correction, Heather, you'd said August 24th for the new student
Oh, I
orientation.
apologize.
It's August 22nd.
August
for
22nd
middle
for
school
middle school
orientation.
orientation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jen?
For attendance, I attended the story time at Hillcrest to welcome families and keep folks connected over the summer. Story was in English and in Spanish. They did a craft and played on the playground, and then went over to have lunch for the meals program, the summer meals program at Sheffield. And also work is being done at the circle there, and it looks really great. And I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's done.
And I did see a piece, an article in the paper about the story time. This past one I saw
cool.
an article in the paper, which was nice to have it there.
It's been going really well. And that was the last one for the summer.
And I was just looking up to see when the next one was, but that was the
Yeah.
last one.
Anyone else have any other events? Not at the moment. Okay, thank you. We don't have a student rep yet. Hopefully after the year gets underway, we'll be able to get a student rep, someone who would like to come and share information with us. We also have an Irving rep, but I see Teresa is not able to join us this evening. I think she may have mentioned that.
She's enjoying her summer. Yeah.
Okay, so I think superintendent's report is next.
All right, I have 4 items. I'll try and summarize them. The first one is that the administrative team met on July 31st through August 2nd, our retreat, to plan for the year ahead. Our agenda included all the kind of management issues and human resources and finance and tech and facilities kinds of things you would guess. But the greater part of our meetings were dedicated to preparing for teaching and learning in the year ahead. The group read and discussed a book titled Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain, and reviewed another one called Classroom Management That Works. We also brought in a consultant from Research for Better Teaching for half of a day who led a session on understanding the landscape of social and emotional learning. And all of that together provided a nice foundation for the next steps we're taking in drafting district and school improvement plans and planning professional development for the coming year. Second, at central office, everyone's transitioning from supporting summer programs and completing state reports and closing out the FY19 budget to preparing for the year ahead, getting ready for opening day, taking care of staff handbooks, all of those kinds of things, registering new students. One thing that will be different when we open school on August 26th this year is that we won't start with our typical convocation morning. We will start with a day of training. And what's really driving that is the need for finding time in our school year to do some full-day trainings. We have a new math program. We have a new reading assessment. We have people that need to get trained in de-escalating students that are highly dysregulated. All of those require full days, and we don't have any full PD days in the calendar. This is the closest we come to that. So we're going to jump right in and get down to business on the 26th. The morning of Wednesday, the 27th, we'll have our somewhat shortened convocation with all of the staff getting together at the theater, followed by some building-based meetings and trainings on the second day. And then the third day is dedicated to teachers being able to be left alone to prepare for the year ahead. And the other thing that we're able to do by setting things up this way is for about 130 people or so that don't have dedicated all-day trainings, they'll take part in an equity and diversity training led by Sapphire DeYoung from the collaborative, and that's going to include our food service folks and our bus drivers and all the admin assistants, the technology staff. So we're all going to start to get on the same page, speaking the same language with equity and diversity issues. So we'll probably have more to tell you about that a little bit later. My third item is I just wanted to let folks know that we haven't forgotten about the very productive group. We have the Civic Leaders Group where we meet with folks from the leaders in the community to talk about what's going on in the school district, primarily but not exclusively about budget-related things. And we hit the pause button on that when Pioneer Valley Regional School District was going to take a closer look at whether or not they wanted to form a planning board or planning committees about studying the creation of a larger district. That they invited Steve Hemman, the consultant that came here twice, to meet with them, and then for some reason they had to cancel that. They haven't had that meeting you all had just yet, and we're waiting to see if they are going to have that. But there's other reasons to meet with the civic leaders. We also have updates now that the state senate and the governor signed off on a budget. We've got budget news to update everybody about, not just you all, but I think the other folks from the community will be interested in that. And so we'll be looking to set up, I think, a civic leaders meeting soon. Finally, Athletic Director Adam Graves let me know that football's in jeopardy of not happening at the high school and middle school level this year. Having sufficient numbers of players is kind of on the fence right now, even including the fact that we are including Pioneer, inviting Pioneer athletes to play on our team again this year, or a shared team, I should say. There's a meeting at 6 o'clock on Thursday night in the theater downstairs that the coaches and the athletic directors are holding to tell people where things stand, and hopefully we'll get more students to show up at that meeting that are interested in playing and haven't indicated their interest so far. So I hope that works out well for everybody. And that's my report.
Any questions, comments, Tony?
What happens if there are not enough students to sign up for the program?
We wouldn't be able to have a team.
Jen?
I had two comments. One on all the staff taking the diversity training. I think that I'm happy to see that on day one. It sets the focus for the year, that this is really important. And in the trainings that we went to this summer, both the MASC one and the Teaching Tolerance, they both suggested that all staff, not just teachers, participate in those. So I'm really happy to see that. And then as far as the athletics, I also saw something posted, I believe it was volleyball, but I'm not 100% sure, on Facebook about wanting some players. They have enough, but they're a little light. So I don't know if we want to talk, maybe that could be an agenda item to talk about athletics and what we could do to support athletics. Thinking just off of my thoughts of maybe having like a no fees for a certain amount of time to encourage people to try a new sport, or looking at fees in general in athletics and what we can do to make that more accessible and equitable.
Anyone else? Thank you. Business and operations report?
Okay. Like Michael said, the governor has approved the budget, and so our Chapter 70, which is our big source of funding, we had budgeted an increase over the prior year, about 200,000, and that number came in another $127,000 above our budget. So our overall Chapter 70 increase ended up being about $350,000.
It came in how much over?
It came in $127,000 over what we budgeted. Charter reimbursement also came in higher, and that number's really related more to the particular students that are coming and going, but they are changing the format and how they're reimbursing for charter. So that number's also about over budget by about 46,000. We'll see where those numbers land, because these are still preliminary, even if it's the final budget. If you look at the chart on the front page of my report, you'll see regional transportation. And that number's not really down. Transportation reimbursement as a whole is up, except we eliminated a couple of buses, and so our transportation reimbursement money comes a year later, and so that's going to be down. School choice and charter, those numbers, when the governor approves the budget, they approve the number that they paid out in the prior year. They're not looking at who the students are that are attending. They're looking at what happened at the end of last year, and those are the numbers they use. When we budgeted that, we're looking at how many seniors do we have that are graduating? How many new 7th graders do we think will go choice out or go to charter? And so we're looking at that. We're looking at, the flows of how these students come and go and the grades they do that in. So the foundation budget increased above the preliminary foundation budget, and that's one of the reasons that led to this increase in Chapter 70. They used the 3.75% rate on that, but we saw an increase in our ELL, the amounts we receive for ELL on the foundation budget, and for our economically disadvantaged. We also saw an increase there of a couple $100,000 since the preliminary foundation budget. And so that's what increased this. Really, it was the economically disadvantaged. Let's see, I don't want to read this whole thing, but you had it here to take a look at. So the charter reimbursement, what they're saying is they're returning to a 3-year schedule for reimbursement. So year 1 is 100%, year 2 is 60, and year 3 is 40. And they had done something where it was like over 5 years instead of the 3 years. And then we saw a decrease in our charter tuition cost. And so when we saw a decrease in our tuition cost, we got no reimbursement for that. Even if we had a couple new students going, we didn't see reimbursement because we had less total cost. So if your total cost goes down, the reimbursement doesn't come, even if you have new students in year 1. Transportation. With transportation, I'm working with a new software to I'm really just using our existing routes. I'm not rerouting anything, just to get a better handle on where all the kids live and how the buses are working. and it'll make it a lot easier for reporting. And we purchased this with the grant money for the regionalization grant, because we would need to be able to look at routing if we added a district or added more towns to our district. So that was the reason we bought it, but I'm just using it for our district at this point. I do have another license for it that we could use within the district. And Diane and I are working with Greenfield to have our special ed students on some of the Greenfield-owned buses. So we're able to save some money there. And we saw a pretty significant savings just for the summer. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to work with them on all of our, or most of our routes during the school year. So we've met with the transportation coordinator, the special ed director, and the business director there. And community eligibility, the school lunch program, CEP, which is free lunch for the students at Hillcrest, Sheffield, and middle high school. We looked at adding Gill to that this year, and when we added Gill into the numbers, we didn't qualify as a district. So we weren't able to bring them in, but we'll keep trying each year. You have to be at 40% poverty. 40% is the direct cert. The students that are directly certified has to be 40% of your population in order to qualify. And Gill doesn't have a lot of students in that building that qualify in that way, and so that's what bumped us out of that. So we were able to increase our rate for the middle high school, Hillcrest and Sheffield, so we'll be able to get hopefully a little bit more money for each lunch we serve and each breakfast we serve. And so Heather's focus is really to try to increase participation in the program so we can get back to break even, because we're not at break even right now. And I know we talked about moving to CEP, and even if it meant not being break even. So we covered we had about an $80,000 deficit in the school lunch. And last year we began the year with about $20,000 in the school lunch fund, so we're only needing to cover $60,000 to break even this year. So we are trying to close that gap. Gill will receive reimbursement based on who buys lunch, and if they're free, reduced, or paid. So we'll continue that at least another year, and we'll try again next year and see where we land.
Anyone have questions about that? Tommy?
Is there any change to the bus eligibility writing at all in terms of how you redid the routing and?
The bus eligibility?
Right.
This will make it a lot easier to see who's eligible.
Right, but it won't change, like,
It's not
if you wrote,
changing.
okay, right.
No, it's still the 1.5 miles.
And you mentioned in the lunch that you want to increase participation, like in what way? I don't know.
At the middle high school, there's a lot of students that don't participate in lunch. They don't buy lunch. So I think, did I put the percentages on here? No, I didn't include them there. So at Sheffield, we might have closer to 90% of the population eating lunch at school and eating breakfast at school. And at the high school, it's more like 50%. So if we can get more kids to eat lunch, then we're getting more reimbursement. We already have the staff working. So the only added cost is the food. And, there's probably some waste because you're cooking enough in case more of those kids are eating. So, there's not a lot of costs associated with adding more lunches, serving more lunches.
Is it 50% just the high school, it's not the high school, middle school?
High school and middle school.
Oh, so it's combined, okay.
Right. It's about that. I don't have that number with me, but that, and breakfast is much, much lower. It's in the 20s. So, they're trying to have the cart at the front of the building, and on half days, they're trying to have a cart at the front of the building so they can hand the lunches to kids and scan the cards, and, they're really trying to find ways to get the food in the kids' hands.
Are they still doing the bag lunch on half days?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and in the past, we didn't do any lunches on half days
Right.
at the middle high school. So this is a new thing, and so they're doing it with the cart. And they really, by having the cart out front in the building and having a second person in the cafeteria, I think the middle school was they handed out lunch to the middle school wing, and then the high school in the high school hallway, in the main hallway. And when they were handing them out there, they really did increase the number of lunches served on a half day, actually running out, you know, because you can only serve what you had made if you have the bag lunches.
So are the students just not buying the hot meal and I mean, there can't be 50% of kids not eating, they're just getting a la carte items, probably?
Or they're bringing their own lunch.
I'd just be surprised that many did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's closer to 50%. It's in that range, but I didn't bring that number with me, so I can look it up before the end of the meeting.
Just a suggestion, or maybe, I know Heather Holmes talked about this when she was here last, surveying the students, trying to get a pulse as to, you know, what they wanted, and it could be the choice of food that they're not. So maybe
Mhm.
trying to figure that out before we say, well, they probably not eating because there's nothing they like.
I remembered that Heather said she was gonna try to see what was most appealing, and see if there
Right.
was a way to build on that, for sure.
Right, so that's one of the ways that she's going to try to increase the participation.
Do you think any of it is because it was just new last year that nobody had to pay, but they really hadn't gotten used to it? Did it increase maybe as the year went on, do you think?
It did increase as the year went on. It did increase a little bit, but not as much as we had hoped. And, you know, what we had hoped is that breakfast would come up a lot higher than in the 20s, so that would help pay for the breakfast program.
Right.
So breakfast at the middle high school starts with school, yes, or do you have to be here early to get it?
They can be here early to get it, but they've had the cart, I don't know if they have the cart in the hallway every day, but they have tried putting the cart in the hallway for breakfast. And we are adding somebody to the morning shift to allow that to happen better.
Oh, maybe that's it. Jen?
It's just occurring to me because we're talking about the handbooks tonight, but maybe because it is new, we want to put something more like specific so that parents see it right there, like, oh, I don't have to send my kid lunch because they get it for free, and these are the times that they can get it, and just another thing so the parents are aware. Because, I mean, as a parent, I prefer not to have to do all that work. But if the kid's telling me, yeah, I need lunch, then, you know.
Yeah.
Social media too.
Bless you.
Social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, that's a good point, to advertise it more. I'm not sure putting it in the handbook would be a good
Well,
place
just like
to
what
advertise
time you
it.
have to arrive in order to get it,
Yeah.
or whatever the
But I wanted to say
parameters
that-
are, but.
I forget, I know there's rules about portion size, but I wonder, we heard from a number of eighth graders who felt like the portion size wasn't large enough, and I wonder if there's some slightly counterintuitive thing that if portion sizes were larger, maybe you'd get larger participation rates and it would help pay, but I don't know if that's pretty, like we already max out what we're allowed to do or whatever.
Right, I think, you know, the amount per day, she has her, like her minimums per day, but then she has her maximum per week. So it's really hard to say if we could really give enough extra of the particular portion of the meal that they want to make them feel worthwhile.
I think that's what Heather was saying, that there are extras of like the veggies and things, and they're not eating it.
Right.
I don't want to critique the lunch that was there, but I think the main thing is the choices that are there. So just like I said, getting the pulse of the students. One of my main concerns have been, Heather was great in terms of showing what the guidelines are. But you have athletes who eat. I mean, they eat more. And I get that they can grab extras of the veggies and things like that, but, you know, maybe they want that extra patty or whatever, so.
Right, and kids, they can always buy an extra patty. If they want the extra patty, they can buy it. Right, it's a matter of affording that, but they could buy an extra. There's still the a la carte, so there is that option.
But it's good to know that she's looking at it and you're looking at it and trying to think of any way that might just make it more appealing in any way. So, good. Okay. Any other questions, comments about that report? All right. In that case, we are on to school committee reports. We need to have warrant subcommittee approval for a list of warrants. We need to have a motion for each of these. The first is The student activity warrant for Gill, it's number 1965, dated 7/30/19, for $1,160.
Oh, are we doing these separately?
Yes, we need
Okay.
to do them separately
Gotcha.
tonight, because
Gotcha.
there's a different type of, so that is finishing up fiscal year 19, and I think there was an explanation in the information that came to us online that it was finishing up a bill from last year.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and Heather seconded. All those in favor? Okay, it looks unanimous, thank you. The next warrant is AP warrant
Can you go slower?
I'm sorry, is 2004, number 2004. The date is 8/14/19. The amount on this warrant is $165,794.52.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. The next is the AP warrant number 2005. It's dated 8/14/19. The amount is $2,330.62. This covers reimbursement for school committee members attending the MASC conference in November. Also a summer conference and mileage in Marlboro, possibly. And was there something else on there, Marge?
Yes, Mars is on there. It's not a school committee related, but it's the registrations for the November conference,
Yeah.
registration for a summer conference, and a reimbursement for Jennifer for attending the July conference.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Okay.
1, 2, 3.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, Heather.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have 2 abstentions.
Who's Jane and?
It's
Jen.
Jen.
Right. Jane and Jen are attending the
Because
November.
we're attending.
That's okay, it's just
Just keep it.
Mike and I are just trying to
I
write as
appreciate
fast
that,
as
so,
you're rattling
yeah.
off these.
Trying to
It's
speak
impossible.
more slowly. And the last one for this evening is AP warrant number 2006. It's also dated 8/14/19. The amount is $2,757.24.
So moved.
Do you want to say what that's for?
Pardon?
Did we say what that's for? You just said
What's-
that.
That is just regular,
Okay.
general fund expenses. Yeah, it's just a
Right.
small one,
Okay,
very small.
right. As the second one was general funds.
Okay.
So I should have said that, thank you.
The second one being 2004?
Yes,
2004
that
is,
was also general funds.
it's the AP warrants, general fund and grants and revolving.
Supplies, grants, revolving.
Okay.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve number
So-
2006.
Oh, yeah, we're all.
That's
Yeah,
all
we
done.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Looks unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm just gonna need one more signature on the school committee warrant.
Right, Cassie's
You're all
not
done.
here to be part of the subcommittee, so I've done the others, but I can't do that one. So if somebody else could sign it after, that'd be helpful. Mike, thank you. Yep. Okay. Regular business, we have the,
What one you're signing, should that be in the minutes?
It's 06. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's 05.
2005.
okay,
Jane can't sign, Mike will.
okay. Item A is Great Falls Middle School, Turners Falls High School student handbooks, and we have them in our packet. And fortunately, we also have highlighted and pointed out any changes in the handbook, which helps a great deal. And we have some folks joining us. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, please.
I'd like to have Mr. Gaffigan introduce himself. So this is Tom Gaffigan, our new assistant principal for the middle high school. And maybe, Tom, you could tell everybody how you landed here.
I took an airplane. No, well, I've been a member of this community. I've lived in Turners Falls for 27 years now, going on 28. Excuse me. So, I've always taken an interest in the community, and I'm really excited to be here and to be part of this. Working with Joni has been, the last couple of weeks has been just nothing but a pleasure, and we get along very well. I want everybody to know that we've got like the same vision, and for what we want our school and what we want from our students. Back to me, I taught at Pioneer High School for 10 years. I went to Greenfield High School as assistant principal for 5 years. I've been a football coach, varsity football coach for 30 years, between different schools in this community. So I really pretty well versed on all the communities surrounding ours, and just the experience and seeing the different, how people handle it in different communities. It's well served, but it still comes down to students, and that's what I'm here for. I'm really excited about this and excited to do my very best for this high school, middle school, and for this community, and look forward to working with you guys. So.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice you could join us this evening.
Thank you.
And nice to see you again, Joni.
Nice to see all of you.
Maybe you could walk us through the changes that have been made?
Yep.
Do you want to take some turns, or?
And then if anybody's got comments or questions
Okay.
along the way.
Yes.
We started just because I had the pleasure of going through a coordinated program review when I was in Petersham, so I don't know if you guys had the pleasure of doing that. But so I was made aware of a lot of things that we needed to include in handbooks. And so a lot of these changes were due to that. So Desi's saying you need to include this, this, and this. So you can see the first thing that we added in page 2 was a statement of non-discrimination. And that is a required statement. Do you want me, you don't want me to read, right? We're just going, okay.
No, and
So-
if anyone has a question, even as we go along, please just.
Right. So that is why we did that, and we put it on page 2 because it is very important to have that. And then we also need to have an equal access statement right there. And all of that is verbiage that's commonly used in other school districts, just changing the district name. Go ahead and go to Russ. Next.
Is there any questions on that? Okay. Pages 3, 4, 5, and 6 was just an update of names and numbers of people from the high school, from the administration, student services. While we're at it, I just wanted to let you guys know that we hired another dean of students too, Rebel McKinney, who comes with us with a lot of experience, especially a lot of experience with social justice and restorative justice programs, and she's going to be a welcome addition to our team, our administrative team. Can't wait to get to work with her. So basically, that's all that this was. Up to page 11 was just an update of names and what they do at the school.
So we apologize for the incorrections we had at the first version, and we will make sure those are changed. Yes, you have
Yes.
Under the first page, bottom half, and I know it appears for some reason this way on the website under contacting school committee. You have Michael Langnett listed as treasurer.
Okay,
He's not the treasurer.
okay,
He's the assistant treasurer,
okay,
and he also is our secretary.
okay. So it should list both?
Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
this is how it was voted by the school committee
Okay.
in reorganization.
That's fine.
Right. Thank you.
And I don't know where you'd want to put it, but Cynthia, and her last name has escaped me, is our treasurer. And she's not on the school committee, but you have.
Cynthia in Joanne's office?
Right, she should
Cynthia?
be in the
Okay,
central
so
office.
where should that,
On
The
page
central
2,
office.
maybe, the
central
top?
office?
I don't know,
Probably
Yeah.
central office.
Central
Caparazzo.
office? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
but I just mentioning,
Yep.
it's I don't think Mike wants the credit of being treasurer.
Get to keep a debit card though, right?
Yeah, he can have the debit card.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Also, I don't know if it's possible to put a little small sentence about when or why we would be contacted, or some
Sure.
contact information, because I know it's on the website, but if you're looking at this book,
Sure.
there's numbers for everybody else. So if maybe it just directed them to Sabrina, and then she directed them to us, or it says contact emails are on the website, or
Okay.
just something, or,
Sure.
and I don't know if you want to get into, like, we do budget and policy, so they're not calling us for regular stuff, but
Could I
don't
ask
know.
a favor from somebody so we do it right? Is there anybody willing to write up a little blurb and email it to me? Because I'm more than happy, that way you guys would get exactly what you would like.
Tommy, would you put a blurb in the?
Well, it isn't necessarily, but you have numbers for everybody else of like how to reach them. So I'm thinking, like, if a
Right.
parent wanted to reach out to the school committee, they should know how without
How to do it.
having to go to the website if it's right here like all the other numbers.
I'm just thinking about the blurb saying, oh, this is what we do. I mean,
Well,
that's-
yeah, I just don't want people
Yeah.
calling us for like everything if they.
I remember
mean-
that on there. I mean, it's on the, I just.
Well, it could go to the central office and then they could direct it to us, but
I just feel like knowing what the handbook looks like,
Yeah.
it's gonna,
yeah, we don't want it to be too long.
It's gonna
So
be
don't worry
lengthy.
about that.
I mean,
But I
maybe
just
just
mean,
something
there are
about
contact numbers of like, if you need this
Sandy
department, you
has to
call
type
this
that up.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it
Sandy
doesn't
has
have to be all that,
So I'm
just.
sorry, can you clarify? I'm
sorry.
confused.
So if you could just put like a phone number to central office, so
Okay,
Sabrina could
so
then like
contact central
say
office.
how to
Joni?
email
Yes.
us or
Yeah,
something.
Michael and I will get back to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
Yeah,
guys
we'll
can
give
figure it
you-
out.
So
Okay.
you don't have to make notes now
Yeah,
on that.
you guys can
Okay.
figure it out, but
Yeah.
just, sometimes people want to contact us, they should.
Not a problem.
I'd just
All right.
like to say
Bill?
that if you called me on the phone, I don't answer my phone unless I know what the number,
Right, well, that's
Is
why they should
who's
call someone
behind
in the
it, so-
district to then get directed.
my number there would not be
Please don't put my
An
personal
asset.
number here.
We're gonna put yours and only yours.
If you want anything,
But, you
call
know.
Jennifer.
What's your-
Somebody can
what's
let
your
More
cell
than
number?
happy.
And also,
That's right, that's right.
just how to contact us in general.
All
please.
about her.
And then, I didn't see anything about Stacy Langneck, as the new, like, family coordinator. That might be important for people
She was
to know
probably hired.
how to, she's a new
call.
hire, yeah.
absolutely.
But people will wanna know how to reach her.
Is that a district central office person?
No.
Oh, yeah, where would you?
Yeah.
Where does she go? Where does she go?
Well, her phone
Her office
extension
is
is
in
in your
high school.
guidance office.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, should she be under,
Oh, where to
she's
put
not,
her?
she's not school committee, so she's not.
Right.
Oh, it's right, sorry.
Student services, maybe?
Well, right on the back.
Just thinking of people here.
Oh, like under,
Right under
okay,
the guidance counselor.
counseling?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, it's student services, well, student and
Yeah,
family
under
services,
the
but I don't,
district
yeah.
central office, maybe.
okay.
Oh.
Stacy.
She's housed in the student services office, which I don't know where it is now, like Beth's office, is that what she's at?
She's,
Maybe
yes,
have her
Yeah.
under there?
yep,
Well,
she's
you
the
know what?
last
Sorry,
office.
That's not mine,
Okay, we can add her too.
however you wanna format it.
All right. Any other changes until page 11 that you guys see? Okay, and then page 11, so the closing of grades and progress reporting, and that was decided, I apologize, but I don't remember what date, but in our admin retreat. So, Tina went through the calendar with all of us and set the dates. Any questions on that? Okay, yep.
On pages 27 and 28, the MIAA Rule 51 and 58 we added, which was basically eligibility requirements for student athletes. And then we added in 58, 1, 3, 4, and 5, which really gives a great baseline and what each student athlete has to accomplish in order to have the privilege to play. And then, and also what is excluded from that. And that's where choral concerts come in, science fairs, etc.
And that's a rule set by them, so not by us.
Yeah, it's MIAA rule.
Right. And then on page 31, we did not have in the handbook prior the Mass General Law on bullying. So Tom and I felt that was very important. I think it's required too, if I'm not mistaken. So that's spelled out there.
Any questions on that? Okay, yes.
Are you going to be going through the handbook as it is, or are you just doing that, what you mentioned?
We are only
Changes.
mentioning the changes that we made. Everything else
Remains
is
the
something that you voted last year. So these are the only changes that would be made.
Okay.
But if, after we look at the changes, if there are
Right,
points
you
that
can-
people need to ask or make comments about, we'd certainly do that.
I would like an opportunity to talk sometime
Yep.
after you do the
Sure.
changes for the
Good.
middle
Yep.
school, to hit the middle school handbook,
Mhm.
page, well, not page by page, but I have a couple of
Okay, thank you.
things noted.
Yep.
Sure.
Tommy?
I don't want to interrupt you from doing the changes, but I know we have the middle school handbook that's coming up to be approved.
Mm-hmm.
Does that not go in front of the,
It was approved,
can't
correct
I-
me if I'm wrong, Superintendent
Date
Stoltenberg.
book.
It was
The date
approved
book.
by
Yes.
all of you last year.
okay, so that's.
And that's what went in the handbook, and we
Okay.
are recommending changes, and it's basically some of these same exact
That's
things
right, 'cause it's.
that we're missing. So, yes, the handbooks have already been made, so we're gonna have to put the updated handbook on the website. I mean,
Yeah.
excuse me, the agendas were already produced, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
On page 48, the student dress policy, we really didn't make too much of a changes there, hats, visors, headbands. What we did make was sunglasses should not be worn in the school building, okay? And hoods should not be worn in the school building. And that's for safety purposes. You know, you can't see a student's eyes, can't tell if there's something going on there. You know, we want to be able to jump ahead of any issues. And sunglasses is something kids feel that it's not a big deal, but if we're trying to keep our students safe, it is a big deal. Hoods, it's a big thing. Every school district I've been in, it's an issue, especially in the wintertime. And we understand that some kids, students, makes them feel secure by putting their hoods over them. However, we also feel strongly that that is an area that is a safety concern. We can't see the kid's face. We don't know who it is. And I think any law enforcement agency would tell you the same thing, that that's an issue that we want kids, we want to be able to see their faces. We want to keep kids safe here, so that's an important thing, and it's a fight every year. Every school district I've been in, it's been a fight, but I'm really strongly against hoods in the school, so.
The last change we made on the high school was on page 51. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, was that
Mhm.
in there? We just clarified it? I
That
can't
was in
remember that
there.
one.
We clarified, it's still the same thing in there, but we wanted to clarify a little bit more that earbuds and headphones may be worn in one ear, and that's in the original statement.
We did have students questioning us about that, so that's why we
Yeah.
decided to put that in there.
You know, the expectations, according to the handbook, is, you know, they can be worn in one ear during transition time and at lunchtime so they can listen to music. However, they pulled that out and there's loud music playing, they're gonna be asked to put it away. And then nothing changes as far as once they're in the classroom, it's off, put away, nobody should be able to see it. So,
That was it for high school. Does anybody have any other comments for high school? Concerns, questions? Yes,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. I did bring up.
Is there a reason for the blank page, or did I just end up with page 9 with nothing on it?
Hold on. I do have a copy right here.
In the high school manual.
That's a formatting issue, thank you. I don't know why that's, oh, no, that's for the school calendar. Mrs. Bailey had not, put it on there, I'm sorry, it's the school calendar. So she's gonna have to scan that in and put that in there. Thank you. I had to think for a second, you reminded you,
You're on the top of your
set
game.
off a reminder in my brain.
I'm sorry.
No, please ask. Any other questions about high school? Okay, we're moving on to middle school. So, as I said,
You said I'm sorry for
That's all right.
interrupting. You said these had gone to press or whatever?
No.
They're done?
The middle
No,
school.
the high school has not gone to press. The high school need your approval. Middle school you approved last year, but we need to make changes to it. And it did go to press.
We want to be in compliance
Yes.
with some of these things.
Okay.
So we need
I
to,
think that's because they have date books that they give out at the
They
beginning.
what
of the-
year?
They have date books that they give out at the beginning of the year for each student, so that has to go to print, like ahead of time, before the summer starts.
Yeah, I found the high school handbook a much easier read. I found the formatting more logical to the way my brain works. Typographically, this type of thing. Then I found the print ever so much more pleasing to my geriatric eyes than
in the high school.
the middle school. It was, I'll tell you,
The middle school you did not care for, or the high school?
middle school,
The middle school. And the reason why it was so small is because to fit in that agenda book, because you're paying by the page.
It's like this big.
Right, it's an agenda book, right, about this tall and this wide.
I read it with magnifying lenses
Right,
at the time.
right.
It was just,
Right,
It's not on the website like that. It's
correct, right, yeah. It will not be on the website like that.
okay, and I do have other comments about the middle school,
Okay,
which is all finished, but
did you want us to go through the changes first, or did you
Oh,
want to
you
do your
please.
comments first?
Yes, please.
please,
Okay, so the
whatever.
changes first? Okay. So I'll start, so we made the same, put in the same, on page 2, same statement of non-discrimination and equal access that we did for the high school.
And on page 3, just an update on staff information. On the webpage, needs to be changed on the webpage and stuff for, just changed it from to Joanne, and Joni and myself.
And then page 11, we added the bullying law that was not put in there before, the Mass General Law.
And then the last one, page 13, as I was reading through the middle school handbook, and I had talked to people in town that had come up to me, as I'm sure they come up to you at times, and some middle school parents were concerned that their child who didn't pass a class or two in the springtime for final grades weren't allowed, even if they went to summer school and passed, were still not allowed to play sports in the fall. And MIAA guidelines for high school is if you pass a summer course in order to get your grades up, you're allowed to play. So I thought it was best to bring it in line with the MIAA handbook, and why punish a student who took his summer and actually lost his summer. I know one student couldn't go on a family vacation to North Carolina because he really wanted to play football, and he stayed behind with his grandparents, and they brought him to school every day so he could pass and hopefully make the right decision next time, they said. So that's where I went with that, and I talked with Adam Graves about it, and he was all in favor too. So.
Do you have any questions or concerns about the changes? Okay, so do you want to go ahead and go forward?
Yeah,
Okay,
um,
can you tell us the page number you're talking about, so I know where you're?
I'm
Yep,
sorry.
absolutely. Great, grab this at the last minute.
On page 9,
Okay, just a second, let me skip in. Okay,
Second paragraph, violation, report a complaint of violation involving superintendent should be filed with the school committee, I think,
Where
rather
do you
than just
see-
the committee.
The last sentence, the last word.
Second paragraph, well, it isn't,
okay.
it's Roman
School
numeral
committee
3.
instead of committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Yep,
Yep.
okay.
Good catch.
Okay, and as you get grayer, something that I didn't realize, and it was in both books,
Okay,
and it's a point of information question.
okay.
Page 14.
Can I stay on page 9 for a second?
Pardon?
Can we stay on page 9 for a second? I
Oh,
just saw
please.
something.
Please.
So, under the Title IX coordinator, that should list Diane Ellis and not me.
Not you?
Yeah, I
Take
should
you
be-
off?
I should
Okay.
be removed from that. Thanks.
Yep,
I
okay.
didn't see him
No,
on
no,
here.
no, he's probably-
Yeah.
Oh, it's underneath. Okay, that's me.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this is only, it won't get removed anyhow now because it's all gone to press.
It'll be on the website.
Should be on the website.
He updated it, it's gonna be on the website.
Oh, okay. But I'm not gonna go there. But I didn't understand under payment,
What page are you on?
14.
14.
14, okay.
It sort of made my heart
Payment.
sink. Or referring the matter to a collection agency. And it was in both handbooks.
Steps are not taken.
If they charge their lunches
I'm
and don't
gonna,
pay for it.
go to Joanne or Michael on that, like I don't.
Or I just raising it, I
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
realize.
I think for the lunch portion of it, I mean, that could happen, but for the lunch portion of it, nobody should be charging anything because lunch is free.
Right,
You know, they could buy
but it's like the a la
but
carte
they
stuff.
shouldn't get à la carte if they don't have money. There should be no charging.
I'm just, it just,
So you're saying we should take out about the lunch?
I don't
well,
think
this
so.
is, it's all printed now,
Yeah.
so if we,
Yeah, I wouldn't think that we would need anything about,
The
I think
payment.
we should be able to say that lunch is free
Right.
at the middle high school. But they could purchase from the à la carte, but there's no
Right.
charging.
So that payment paragraph.
So
should
then-
be taken out.
So we could take out the whole thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, are you saying though, if they're buying something on their own? Like in my past job,
They
I
can't-
was a collection agency.
They can't do it.
I had to make the
Can't do it
calls.
on-
Do we do any calls or no? I don't know.
We had very, very little charging at the middle high school because lunch was free.
Okay.
And we really tried to not allow the charges to happen on the à la carte line because we could just send them to the lunch line, then they can get it for
Oh,
free.
so you
Gotcha.
you can't, oh, you needed to have the money.
Right.
In order to
You
buy
can't
it.
charge à la carte.
Okay, so should we be taking that out?
If
The
we
whole-
do that,
the
I
whole
think we need to
payment?
mention that it's
Just to
free.
that question,
Yes.
because it's come up in the past every 2 years, as you can imagine. But if it isn't listed, then you don't have that opportunity. And even though we don't intend to invoke it, although in the circumstance of not having to pay for a regular lunch and not allowing people to charge, it may be redundant or just unnecessary.
It says it right above. I think.
Right, that's what I think it's,
And I think that stating that lunch is currently free is a good idea.
Right, it does. Tell me, did you have a point?
I was just thinking, I mean, if they are not paying for lunch, what's the need for the payment? Although, they have is it Pay Central now? Wow. Pay Central accounts that their parents still do put money on there. Maybe there needs to be something regarding the payment account for the à la carte items. Not
Right.
necessarily that you're gonna be, it's gonna be collections, because as far as we know, you can't buy lunch on credit, right?
so when
You shouldn't
the
be
year
purchasing that.
ended, we had $7 that was owed by middle school students. Not a big deal.
Wow,
That was pretty good. That's great.
Was that all?
And,
that's
and $3.
very little,
So,
yes.
you know, I'm not worried about
No.
going to a collection agency.
I'm just thinking.
I was just
you have a section there, it
Right.
makes sense, you have a section there
Right,
that says
it
payment.
should be
Should be
as
done.
accurate
I
as
think that we
possible.
should
Strike the
definitely
whole thing?
indicate that it's,
Yep.
it's free, you know,
Okay.
that lunch is free, but they could go through pay schools if they want to get at something on à la carte, they do have to pay for that. I can help
Could
you
you-
write something.
yeah.
to that.
Thank you,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you, Joanne, yeah. Because you're right, it should make the most sense we possibly can.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
so I'll go to Joanne for that. Did you have any other pages? Okay, keep on going.
I'm sorry.
That's all right,
Um,
time and place to do it.
18.
18.
No, I'm
Middle
middle
school.
school.
Is it?
It stops at
Does it?
15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, I'm like, where's,
Really
Yeah.
confused.
15.
okay, all
Oh,
right, 15.
Top of the page.
Mhm.
Yeah, Montague Police Department, et cetera. But it goes, maybe I messed up on this. A collaborative approach to police department. Just don't try this. The agreement, which is the way I interpreted it, and I could be wrong, between a collaborative approach between the district and the Montague Police Department.
I should say Montague.
Well, Doc is sitting not far away, and it's just,
Well, it says it in the first line.
And the title.
okay.
It's not
And
fresh
the-
anymore.
You, in the end, you say something about the SRO is based in the secondary building and spends time working in each of the district schools. And I don't know, I know Officer Minor does cross the bridge to go to Gill. And I think last year he stopped in and spoke to Chief, our chief, Gill's chief of police. And I think that's sort of a nice courtesy every year to reaffirm that, because he's Montague Police and not Gill Police. And I'd made some comment to Chief when I was talking to him, and I said, well, you know, goes over to our elementary school, and, oh, what? You know, like this, I didn't even, and I said, well, I assume to have lunch with the kids once in a while so they know who he is. And when they come up to the high school, middle school, they'll know, you know, Officer Minor. And he just goes for whatever. Not for that he's needed there, not that he's called there, but he makes contacts. And I think that traditionally this relationship is reestablished annually.
Okay,
That's all.
I will
And
share that
just-
with Officer Minor.
It's something you treasure, but
Yes.
I had a comment about the section on the resource officer. It's often an area that I get questions from people in the community. I know this has already been printed, but when we post it on the website, is it possible to link to like the full MOU or more detailed information?
Is that a, are
I
you all
don't
right with
know.
that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Just because it's a common, frequently asked question thing.
Sure. Okay.
And then also, with the approval of this, will everything get changed on the website? And also all the new staff and all of that? Because we want it to match up, of course. Will Tina do that, or somebody will take care of, like, once this is approved, will all of those changes go in everywhere?
Everywhere,
Like all the
Web-
staff changes on the website and all, you know, there's a lot of different places to update.
Oh, you're not talking about the handbook, you're
But
talking about.
as, you know, since all this stuff's listed in here and we're talking about that, just brings the
Right,
question to make sure
right.
that
She's talking about
fresh school
staff
year-
on website, not the
fresh school year,
handbook.
it's all matching.
Right.
You know, it's all updated.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Does Tina do
yeah,
that? I don't.
all the changes we're talking about need to be made wherever,
Right.
wherever that
Across
information is
all the places that
publicized.
it's everywhere, yeah, so
Right.
parents don't get confused right at the beginning of the year.
I find some of the formatting is difficult to follow, more in the middle school than in the high school, but I just find it sort of difficult.
Yeah, it'd be great if they were similar, but.
That is a goal of ours for next year. This is kind of a Band-Aid, so to speak. We didn't have a lot of time, so we were just
I
looking
appreciate
at laws that we know needed to be in there to get us in compliance, and we can certainly work on that. Tom and I have already discussed that is our winter work,
Yeah.
is to get the handbooks done next winter, so you guys can have it in the spring and not now. So that's how we operate, so we won't be sitting here next August going over this. So, yeah, yes.
You may want to have a conversation with the middle school teachers about how they, in what way do they have kids refer to the handbook as part of their agenda notebooks?
Right,
And if
okay.
that's, if it would not be the end of the world, maybe that approach has outlived itself.
Right,
as
to not have it in
handbooks
there,
become
I know.
monstrous, yeah.
Well, I was even gonna talk to you afterwards on the side. I mean, do we need it in, do we want it in there this year? I mean, we could rip it out, but, whatever. Okay,
See what the
yeah.
school does with it, if they use it.
Okay. Because it costs a lot of money too to put it in there.
Right.
So it could just be, it's on the website type thing. Okay, we will ask. Okay. So definitely, we will be thinking of other changes you would like to see, so just please know that that is a winter project, so if you guys have suggestions, please give them to us prior than that. We would like to get this done sooner than later, but we foresee being done on our end before you guys get it early winter. For us to do early winter, then you guys have it, later than whatever January meeting you have. So you can start looking at that and deciding and kind of go from there. Yes?
Might I suggest,
Yes.
if you ultimately decide not to in a future year, put the handbook into their calendar,
Mm-hmm.
that you expand it, enlarge it, the type and all,
For the
Yeah.
middle school?
to go on,
That's
yeah,
fine.
Yep.
to go on the web. You say you did it for economic reasons, because you pay by the page, but
I would assume. I didn't do
We
it,
didn't
but
do
I'm
it.
assuming, right.
notebook that it's printed in, that's why, yeah.
okay, whatever.
It's a
But
5
if
by
it goes-
5 by 7, I would think,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it? 5 by
yeah,
7?
that.
Yeah.
Right, and so, you're right,
If
you're
you're just-
paying by the page you put in there.
Yeah, I could see that, but if you were gonna just put it up on the web
Yeah.
type of thing,
Yeah,
expand it, enlarge it.
Yep, absolutely.
So by that timing schedule, we should tell you now what changes.
Or within a couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do it again till winter, so you can,
We got a
take your
couple other
time.
things we
Right,
gotta
you
do
can
before
think
that.
about it, yeah.
But the upside is all the changes that you put in are good. I mean, all those are updated and done
Yes.
well, the new
Yes.
laws.
But we're in compliance now.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So that is a good piece of work
Right.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Desi changes it all the time, as we all know.
Of
So
course.
I asked, when I went through the coordinated program review, I made a suggestion, and the Desi rep kind of looked at me and just kind of laughed. But I said, why don't you do a template for elementary
know.
school, middle school, and high school? So you have all the mandated laws in
Right.
there. And he's like, why would we do that? I said, you're gonna, so
That
I'm
would
like,
just
you
help.
would save all of us work and you work. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna come around and check yours. And I'm like, okay.
Your
So-
tax
There
dollars.
you
that-
go.
Yes.
Jen?
For a project for the winter.
Yes.
And also, we're gonna be talking about the equity committee,
Yes.
thinking that they should look at this, especially when it comes to like the discipline, the dress code, like
Sure.
anything like that, just to have them review it.
Sure.
And give you suggestions or recommendations and let us know what their thoughts are.
We are also instituting a school council again, just so you guys know, and that will begin in September. So they will have comments on this too, and feedback. So it would have gone through school council prior to it getting to the equity committee too. So and that will have community voice, staff voice, admin voice, and it would have gone to the superintendent prior to that too.
Good,
So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
It is a huge job, and with everything else, so we
Mhm.
really appreciate your efforts.
Mhm. Not
It
a
shows.
problem. Yeah, so be expecting something better next year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More bells and whistles.
Yes.
Anything
you.
else, anyone?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Joni, can I
Yes.
put you on the spot and
Yes,
ask,
absolutely.
ask if you wouldn't mind sticking around for the next
Yes.
agenda item,
Just want to-
in case there's something relevant?
Sure. Yep. Not a problem.
We need to approve the handbook. Do we need a motion and a
yeah.
vote and all that? We need a motion to approve the handbooks, because that is part of our responsibility.
So moved.
Wait a minute. Oh, you're gonna do it, I'll just forget it. Handbooks plural or
Just the one, the high school.
high
Yeah.
school handbook?
That's right, we approved high school, but we don't approve the middle school.
So moved.
All right, so Heather moved.
Heather,
Heather moved? Okay,
you want to second it?
I'll let you do it.
Second.
Mike seconded. All those in favor? Looks unanimous to me. Thank you all. Moving along, under business, the District Equity Committee update.
I thought the calendar was somewhere.
So, I am not on the equity committee. I have some conversations with Sapphire, the facilitator. She and I have been speaking about planning the PD that she will help facilitate on August 26th. But about the time we were talking about that, she sent me some recommendations from the committee's first meeting in June. I think it was the 25th. They met most of the day, had their kind of get-to-know-you meeting, established some norms and so on. And then this past Friday, early evening, they had their first regular meeting. And Joni was in attendance, and Mike's on the committee, and I had the request from one or two school committee members to put this on the agenda in case there was interest in kind of just taking the temperature of how that's going, or if anybody wanted to report on anything, or ask me any questions, or anybody else any questions. So I provided you with 3 documents. One is the document where it kind of explains at least Sapphire's understanding of what the committee would do. So it's got a collaborative heading at the top of the document. It's 2 pages long. It talks about the intentions of the group going forward. The second related document is a list of 3 recommendations they had, like I said, straight away at their first meeting about things for us to consider doing. And then I provided you a copy of my reply to them, which I wanted to get to them prior to their meeting this past Friday. So those are, I'm not going to read you or summarize, I don't think, those documents to you, but those are there too if you wanted to discuss any of those documents or use those for any part of this discussion. And with that, I'll just stop talking.
Anyone on the committee have any comments, questions about the process, about the information we have so far? Jennifer?
I have some questions.
Uh-huh.
It's been brought to my attention by some community members that the committee is highly the committee's filled with a lot of staff, which is good. I appreciate that buy-in. But I hope that we're encouraging more community members from what was told to me, and I haven't seen a list of who's actually on it, that there's only a couple of community members on the committee, maybe Mike can answer that, that are not employees of the district. And I also have heard from some concerns from others that having employees with supervisors on the committee may kind of hold that discussion in as open and honest as it can be. So I'm just wondering if we want to think about that and see if we want to have the committee report to supervisors, admin, the school committee, but not necessarily have supervisors and staff that are under them on that committee, just for the honest conversation to be able to happen. So that's something that has been brought to my attention, and I think we might want to consider.
I have one quick response. The feedback I was getting early on is that we want some people that are in influential situations to be part of the committee.
Right.
If they're not there, the committee's gonna feel like no one's got their attention. So
Yeah, that's a
that was
hard
the spirit
balance.
by which we added Joni to the committee and Diane Ellis, so.
And that is a hard balance, but I don't know if the committee should be reporting to those folks and having a dialogue or a liaison or whatnot, or if they should be on the committee. So I'm not saying I have the answer, I'm just saying that that has been brought to my attention and we should maybe talk about it.
Heather?
I don't know if it's for us to discuss, I don't,
Or for the
obviously
committee to
it sort of
discuss.
is, right.
Yeah.
I feel it's pretty important to have someone there. I mean, I'd like to think that people are comfortable enough to speak their mind when they're in front of, you know what I
That's
mean?
not necessarily what I'm hearing though.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but you need a person there who can, because only reporting out to our administrators, they miss all of that conversation as to why these people feel this way. Like, that's really important information. Maybe the administrator has a more limited role and they don't chime
Yeah,
in
I
every
think
2
for-
minutes or something
yeah.
like that, but I feel like them hearing the conversations is only gonna help the building.
I think that some of the concern from what I was gathering comes from just the power dynamic and you know, wanting to censor because your boss is in the room type of thing. And, you know, if the committee is mostly made up of Gilmontague employees, that makes a big difference too. You know, if they're hearing from community members, it might have a different feeling, you know. So it's an issue that's been brought up, so I think we should think about it. I don't know if there's different things we want to try. The committee might want to discuss it themselves, not our committee, but their committee. You know, and then who's reporting out? I think it seems like that mostly is going to fall on Stacey Langneck as the family coordinator and being on the committee. So I don't know if that's enough because she's not in a role to have any authority. But I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily have the answer. This has been brought up, and I can see the point that they have, but I also see the point of having someone there that can really make change.
I saw some hands, Bill first, and then Haley.
I think there's an inherent dichotomy in what you're talking, because if you want to have a real conversation, you can't have half a conversation. You're right that if there are too many people in the district, perhaps, you can perceive that there's going to be one point of view, but I think sitting here, I find there's a lot of points of view within the district, and those people are also from the community. But as much as you can expand it, I would agree, but I don't agree with the particular complaint because of your term of having a real conversation.
Haley?
Just to get it out there loud and clear, if there are community members who are interested in
Please.
joining in,
Yeah.
the door is still open.
Right, it's not too
Yeah.
late to join. We would be more than happy to have more community members as part of this group. In fact, we would request that anyone is, if they're at all interested, we'd like to try to make it work for them.
And maybe a compromise would be, say, I aired the concern, but I don't think it was a complaint, it was a concern. And maybe that we should let them discuss it and see how they feel, instead of saying, like, we're designating that these are the committee members, let them decide if they're comfortable as a group with those committee members. So it's not our decision.
Right.
Does that sound
I-
appropriate? I don't
It's the
know.
way
Mike,
it's been
you're
so
on the
far.
committee, so I
Yeah.
don't know if you.
It's been self-selected.
I don't know if that's been,
Oh, yeah,
just
that's
if
true.
those sort of appointed district members have been discussed by the committee, I don't know.
Well, there haven't been any appointed members.
Well, like, you know, we're like, these folks should be on it because they're in those certain roles.
That did not
The
happen.
principal should be
that's
on it
never-
because she's the principal.
That came from the facilitator who asked me if she
Okay.
could be on it.
So maybe that should be discussed with the group of, like, what staff members
Well,
they're
I
comfortable
would assume
with.
that
Could
already
bust in
happened.
I don't
it,
know.
that is discussed in the
It
group.
is, okay.
I mean, that's all we
I
discussed
mean, I'm just
so
talking
far.
about what I've heard. I'm not there, I don't know. So,
Yeah, well, and,
That's all I can do.
oh no, I get that, and I would certainly expect you to, but it's getting a little aggressive in your pursuit.
no, I'm just saying, like,
And you're
they
saying
should
it shouldn't be
decide.
like this, but
No.
it isn't like that.
Right, I'm
Yeah.
saying the group should decide, but has the group had that discussion as to what members of the district they're comfortable with being on the committee? Has the group discussed that, and maybe that's their thing to discuss versus our thing to discuss?
Well, yeah, it is theirs, and it's on the agenda. It hasn't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Still very early in
That's fine.
in
I
the
mean,
process.
I'm just bringing what I heard.
Developing guidelines. So it's a little early to tell. I was a little confused because I've heard the same thing, and I'm not going to haggle it here because this isn't the place for that, but I want people to be clear, at least maybe I'm the one who's not clear. This is not a tribunal that we're assigning here. People who are going to make judgments or take action, like every other subcommittee, it's advisory. So we're looking at things, and the committee will decide as a group what it wants to say, what it needs to talk about, what it wants to look at, and then make recommendations to the school committee. Or, I mean, I'm not sure to whom, just to a little bit of everybody.
Right.
We will make recommendations to the administration. We don't know yet how we're going to identify the things we're going to look at, so that's going to be part of that. If someone, presumably, if there's an issue someone wants us to look at, we would report to them. But again, it's too early in the process to say, and way too early to be, because we haven't made any rules yet.
Right.
So that it's way too early to be worried about maybe we need to change the rules, because we don't have any yet.
Heather?
Number 3 in the recommendations is that they need to appoint a person within the district that sit on ECS to support logistics and sustaining relationships in the work of the committee between meetings. I mean, I guess maybe that's just, but it says sit on ECS, so, I mean, that's their very own recommendations from after their first meeting, right?
Mhm.
So, that
And
should shed a little bit of light.
And I mean, I'm not trying to be aggressive or whatever, I'm just saying, this is what I heard, it should be discussed, it's probably the committee's job versus our job, but I'm not saying specifically this person or that person, but the committee should just decide who they're comfortable with, but I didn't mean to sound aggressive.
Well, that was a bad word for me to choose, but it
just-
sounded as though you were saying, this is the way it is.
No.
And I just wanted to be
This
clear
is
that.
the way I'm hearing.
Absolutely,
and,
and
like, it
concerns
maybe
should be brought
be on the
forward.
agenda
Absolutely.
for you guys to
But I just
discuss.
wanted people to be comfortable that we're nowhere near being in a position to be in a place like that yet. So, I mean, I'm not
Norms
just.
and rules, I
Yeah.
guess, is on your agenda, so
Yeah.
I'm happy with
Right.
you're gonna talk about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any other questions or observations about the documents we have?
I also want to know, I guess, what the process is for informing the committee as to what has been done, is being done, has been done over the summer, because reading some of the recommendations, it seems like they're maybe not completely caught up as far as like what's already happened, and maybe they need like a briefing sheet to be sent to them, just to get everybody on the same page and like get a pulse of like where we are right now today. So I don't know if that's something that we could pull from other things that Dr. Sullivan's written for the school committee. And then anytime that we sort of have a thing about diversity and equity, that we just like CC them so they know they're continually in the loop.
So, just so far, I responded to their recommendations, and I also sent Sapphire the memo I wrote about the social, emotional, and the equity work, and all the attachments that went with it, and she asked if she could share that with the whole committee, and I said, of course, that's fine. So that channel is pretty open.
So I'm
and
looking further
fluid.
back.
What's that?
Further back.
There is no further back. They only have.
Well, like what we did over the summer and what we did at the end of last year, and just kind of catching them up, because some of the stuff that they're asking, like in number 1, like we've already started some of that, but they may not know that. We've done some work in that area and we're going to just build on it versus that we're starting from scratch. I just want to make sure that the people that aren't from the district kind of have that history of where we're at and what we've done. It just looks like reading from this that there might be some gaps in what we all understand.
We have been getting the communication from the superintendent that he's presented to the school committee on these topics, along with the correspondence between the superintendent and the equity committee So he is providing us with.
Right, yeah.
I mean. yeah.
I don't know how far back or how far back it needs to be, but just.
Well, it started with the SEL stuff and, yeah, but, so we've got.
And I know
quite
you
a
guys
good
are just starting,
Archive,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyone else, anything at the moment? And we also had discussed that we will have updates regularly on any of the work within the district and also from the committee, any recommendations, any work that they're focusing on. We'll keep that on the list.
When's our next meeting?
Our meeting is the.
No,
September
theirs.
18th.
Oh, theirs.
September 18th.
September 18th.
September 18th.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think. Wait a minute, maybe it's the 15th. Yeah, it's the 15th.
Okay,
Oh, no, wait, I'm
September.
the wrong month, never mind. Put me out of my misery.
15?
No, I'll get back to you. 'cause
You
I-
need to get in the right.
I know it's
18?
not that, but I don't know what date it is. I
Okay.
don't have my computer.
Yeah. I think it's.
They
the
never set a
18th.
time or a place,
Okay.
Okay.
That's all right, just,
All right, yeah.
we have some time.
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't
definitely.
clarified, right? No.
Right, and actually, we have another
Yep,
meeting,
before that.
school committee at
Yeah.
the end of August, so we can put that meeting date out there next time. Okay. Moving on to the next business item, the 2019-2020 school committee meeting calendar. We thought it would be helpful to get out just the basic dates for the rest of the school year so people can put them on their calendars. The one change that a shift was made in October. You'll notice that the meetings are just a week apart instead of 2 weeks apart because our regularly scheduled second Tuesday is the beginning of Yom Kippur, and therefore we moved it another week to avoid that conflict. Anyone? And
So
I'll-
no meeting October
8th.
28th,
No.
9th?
One of those. Whatever the Tuesday is.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, what I do when I get this, like I did last year, is I go through and make Facebook events for all of them so that we can share them if anyone is so inclined.
Righty.
It's easy to just go through,
Great.
plug in a whole bunch of dates, and
Great.
there and there.
And along those lines, if we could post this, and if anybody wanted to come watch us and
Yeah.
hear
Yes,
in person,
that
they
is-
could.
Right, that is
Or
on
watch
the,
us live.
on the
Maybe
web.
just
Or watch
set
it on the
some time
TV,
to
yeah.
put it on TV, yeah.
and
If my memory's correct, and it could be not this hour, the July 2nd meeting was a working session, not a regular school
that's true.
committee.
Yes, that's very true.
And July 16th, if my memory's
Yep.
correct,
We need to flip-flop.
it was a regular meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a typo. Edited.
Yes. And just for your information, the next step by the next meeting or shortly thereafter, what we're going to try to do is go through and put some of the highlights of things that need to be covered at each of these particular meetings, things that are time sensitive, like the handbooks, approving,
Superintendent now.
right, superintendent evaluation. I'd like to add things like choosing the delegate to do the voting at the MASC in November because they want it early, and it always surprises me, and then I have to hurry up and do it. So we're going to try to add those things in, so we have some ideas of what. Again, it won't be totally everything that we have to do, but just particularly time-sensitive things that we need to remember as we're going through. Okay, any questions or comments about that? Next is the Student Activity Guidelines Manual, and we are going to need to vote on this. We had a first reading of it last time, and tonight Joanne has given us an annotated version with the additions that we talked about last time in blue. The items that are in red were ones that were already on it last time. The change.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
No,
She left at 8. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Well, we had some votes, and so I know it matters when we're tracking them, so
Right.
I just.
Thank you. And so anything in red was changed at the last edition, and the changes in blue are new this time. Things that we've talked about adding to make it clearer and more specific. Because again, the student activity accounts need to be really well regulated in how they're handled, the paperwork that's done because of the audits that need to be done to make sure that everything is done appropriately. And this now will be a really thorough document. I know Joanne's been working on it for a couple of years and adding whatever gets added at the state level so that we're keeping current of the requirements. Did anyone have any questions or comments about that before we vote it?
The only
Mike? Sorry.
piece was that we want to be sure that what occurred this year doesn't occur again as part of this process.
Yes.
So informing groups that may be peripherally involved, which is, I understand what happens, all of a sudden they were directly involved. And so if we could let the booster groups know also that they should be clear about keeping things separate, but that sort of got us in trouble. This is very clear. I mean, this is what we need, but it's assuming that everyone on that list is going to pass the information on to the others. And now that we have the experience that it doesn't always happen, it's just a safeguard.
That's a good idea.
And Joni and I do plan to meet with the club advisors at the beginning of the year
Yeah.
to go through this and make sure they understand their roles and responsibilities.
And that's why we added some of the stipulations
Yep.
here, who oversees what. And it's the other reason we wanted to get it on this meeting, so that we can approve it, and then they can go ahead and schedule that meeting for the beginning of the school year. So it's not necessary for Joanne to play catch-up,
Yeah.
but they can go ahead and do it to begin with.
Yep, so there were changes on page 6 where we added this is the role of the appointed student activity advisor and which forms they're responsible for. And then the forms in the back, there. On page 10, I just added the forms. The new forms were not part of the list of forms. As the appendix. Let's see, page 22, we added a line of who submitted it and then who reviewed it. So submitted was already there, but there was nothing for the review. And we're also having them CC the treasurer, so we
Oh,
get a
good.
copy of that there.
Good.
Oh, and the page before that,
Yep.
there's just a note saying this has to be completed by the advisor. And it's on their list of responsibilities. Page, where's the page that is? Different page
23
numbers.
as well.
22, 23. Oh, there it is, hidden. The bank statement reconciliation form, we're just having a place for them to initial who's it completed by and who's it reviewed by. And I think the reviewed by will be the treasurer, but the reconciliation that each of the admin assistants do at the school, they just need to initial them. And then the ticket sales of lines at the top saying who it's completed by, and then signature lines at the bottom.
I think that's really clear. I think that should be really helpful.
Hope them so.
Any other questions, comments? And this is something we do need to vote on, so I will entertain a motion to approve the student activity account procedures manual in new form. Second.
Second.
Okay, having moved, Mike seconded. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor? Next unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, staff changes for the coming year.
Okay, this is the time of year when we provide you with a list, and so in your packet was a list of staff changes that total about 31 moves, which breaks down into 7 new positions, 6 retirements. Steve Tolumpsis is a retirement. Some of these didn't have a reason next to their name, so Lily Lenz, ELL teacher is also a retirement, so.
Oh, she is a retirement,
Yep.
okay.
So 6 retirements, 7 new positions, 9 resignations, a couple of non-renewals, and 5 changes of assignment. And then somebody was an intern whose internship ended. So that's more movement than usual, but I don't know that there's any kind of meaningful pattern to it. But it is definitely more change by a third or so than is typical, I'd say.
Any questions or discussion of this information?
I guess because they're not all listed, what if they're a resignment or resignation, non-renewal, is it heavy to one school? Or, that's the only question that I would kind of want more info on. But it doesn't seem like it from what we have, but there's just.
Well, there's more folks, there's more employees in the middle and high school, and they have a higher percentage.
Right.
And Sheffield's the second biggest employer with the second most change, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that's jumping out as significant.
It was the smallest, and there's no changes.
Of course.
The resignations, what's certainly an uncommon event is the number of resignations from the administrative ranks at the middle, right? We have an assistant principal, a principal, and indeed the students. So that's, if you needed to capture a headline out of this, that might be the most important thing that's occurred.
Sorry, what was that headline?
Administrative team changes at the
Right.
secondary level, yes.
Right. And often the subtext is, which again isn't on here because it's not all inclusive information, is someone found a different position.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, closer to what family in an area that, there's many, many reasons, and we don't even always get that information from someone
Right.
when they.
Family changes, career changes.
Right, right, sometimes people actually change careers and are not teachers anymore, which.
People that left but are still doing what they're doing are only a few, I would say, just a very small number.
Did you say what the blue one? I'm sorry if I missed it.
Blue, those are people who were already teaching or working here but in a different position.
Gotcha.
So their
I guess I
names
should
will
have
be over on
recognized
the
that,
left.
yeah.
Right, there's
Yeah.
several
Yeah.
that are now in a different
Yep,
position,
yep.
as well as
I
more
could-
than several with new positions.
It sounds like you're fairly interested in some of the details. If you want, I'll tell you some of the blanks that were left here. So Michelle Tyrell is going to a new position as a special ed teacher, a different special ed job at Hillcrest. And we haven't talked about this, but it's largely in support of kids on the autism spectrum. There's a large number at Hillcrest now, and we're actually excited to have her be dedicated to them and a couple of other real high needs students. Frances Leary she resigned, the school nurse. Joni Sexauer, the nurse from Sheffield, also resigned. And Steve T, I mentioned, retired. Joanne Kaczynski has a change of position to life skills from therapeutic at the middle school level. Rebecca Zuckley left for a position in her home state of Vermont. Lily Lenz retired. Kayla, the music teacher, resigned.
She's changing professions, actually.
Yeah.
Correct.
Greg Lang is a change of position to to Steve's position. He's going to be the 6th grade special ed teacher. And he has now his official license, which took him a bit to get. We were excited to see that happen. Because he worked his ranks, up through the paraprofessional ranks.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's terrific.
And I actually don't really have any information about Jennifer, the CODA, which is, what does CODA stand for?
Certified
OT.
Occupational
OT.
Therapy
Yeah,
Assistant.
there you go. Thank you.
Taking me so
Getting-
long to remember.
Getting late. Yeah, so that's the list.
That's good. I think that's more helpful than just a list
Yeah.
of people that have come and gone. I think
Thank you.
some background information is very helpful. Thank you.
We do have 7 retirements, and that is a
I was
larger
just
number than
thinking,
normal.
right, I was just thinking, because I know a couple of the folks that seems a lot more retirements than recently of those municipals. Yep. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, teaching social justice training.
Five things.
Okay. There's nothing in here that has that heading.
I don't see it.
No, there isn't.
Oh, okay.
There isn't. I know there was, because I just wrote it. Actually, just a quick little synopsis, unless Jennifer or Haley or Michael prefer to do the synopsis. I just did it this afternoon. I thought, I can do that.
We'll let you start.
Okay, great, I'll start. The Teaching Social Justice program was held at GCC on July 11th. That was a grant, was it a grant funded
Yes, yep.
position? And it was a really excellent space for the interactive work. We were fortunate, Superintendent Sullivan, Haley, Jennifer, and I were able to attend. It was extremely well done. I mean, I was looking at it through the lens of a school committee member, but also if I was a teacher, it would have been equally helpful. And we had a lot of staff members from the
Yep.
district
Oh, nice.
participating. Really good turnout. A lot of really helpful information. I just wrote down a couple of things, but if people are interested in looking at the work that this group does in general, the website is tolerance.org.
I like their site.
And on Facebook, they have a Facebook page called teachingtolerance.org.
They're a great site.
Yep. And it comes from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they have been around for a long time and do excellent work. I just wrote down a couple of things that stuck with me. One of the question that they began with was, how can schools affirm identity, celebrate diversity, teach justice, and inspire action? And with that quote in mind, we looked at critical practices that could be used in schools to accomplish this. The goal is to help people become active participants in a diverse democracy. I believe anyone can click on the link to see a copy of the presentation, and that link is bit.ly/social justice 101. And they, as the day went on, the idea is that social justice education involves instruction, classroom culture, family and community, and teacher leadership. They were very thorough, and we went through a lot of activities and groups to work on these ideas. I especially enjoyed the information on choosing literature in classrooms. In choosing literature, one should look for something that they refer to as mirrors and windows. That means the students can see themselves in the mirror and they can see other people through the window. And that's a really good way to look at literature from the very earliest grades that we're providing in classrooms. That really stuck. Haley?
So I attended as well. It was a great day. One of my favorite takeaways from it was approaching any topic that we're teaching in school through the lens of IDJA, so identity, diversity, justice, and action. And we broke out into small groups, and each group chose a topic that a classroom might be covering. My group did bridges. I was with a bunch of Sheffield people. They have Bridges Night at Sheffield, so we just, it was sort of like planning a lesson plan and looking at bridges through each of those lenses. So it was really inspiring about how you can bring in, just the lens of diversity and action to pretty much anything. I appreciated that. I think it's worth noting that Teaching Tolerance, they're actually changing their name. So they want to take the emphasis off of just tolerance and more of acceptance. The website is amazing. There are so many resources. I highly recommend checking it out. You can filter for what you're looking for by any number of filters. They just have so many free resources. And they have a newsletter that is free for anyone to sign up and get.
I think that you guys covered it really well. I can just reiterate that it was really engaging, and everybody there was excited to really dive in. It was a great turnout. Some of the things that Haley mentioned were really, really valuable. It was great training.
No, I spoke about it last time. I'm
Okay.
very
Yep.
excited
Yep.
about everything you said about it, you
Yep.
collectively said about it. Yep.
It was just extremely well.
I do have stuff if people prefer not to look on the website. They're welcome to borrow
Oh, good,
Wow.
thanks. I
the
read
actual
it.
materials.
Yep, and we all have copies, so if anyone would like to, I didn't bring them tonight, the bag was too heavy.
Just let us know.
But thank you, and if you have any questions as we go along, I know the teachers there really were really pleased with the presentation and really felt it was extremely practical. It wasn't just, the theory was there, but it was useful theory. Sometimes it's hard to get that. And I think there was a real feeling that it was made quite useful. Okay. Next is social and emotional learning initiatives update.
So, in the summer, I get to make a little time for kind of stepping back a little bit and thinking about the year ahead. And this, what I gave you was a memo and some articles for your consideration as we move into the new year. So I'm not expecting even necessarily the beginning of a dialogue this evening, but I did want to provide you with some things in case we do want to start having a dialogue about what your interests are and the interests of the district moving forward. And so what I laid out in the memo was kind of an idea, a proposition that we really want to emphasize relationships as kind of a central focus in the year ahead. And that seems to be an idea that's been brewing for the whole past year. And based on the things the admin team's been studying, things we've been hearing from other stakeholders, it seems like now's a good time to make some of the work related to improving teacher-student relationships, student-student relationships central. And the research we've all, as an admin team, been doing is really points to how that's fundamental to equity work, to social and emotional learning work, to school discipline, to school climate. So we want to kind of build outward from the ground up in terms of kids feeling connected to their teachers. And so I sent you an article that makes the link between improving students' social and emotional learning skills to improving school climate. Clearly, particularly at the secondary level, but also Sheffield, there's a lot of work to do about school climate and managing behaviors on kind of a macro level. And so I'm very interested in looking at how that is associated with the work you do, having individual kids get better at managing their own emotions and interacting with others. And there's interesting stuff out there about how to do that. Also, there's a strong link between doing equity, diversity, social justice work and developing students' social and emotional learning skills. And so I sent you an article that makes that linkage as well. It might all sound like it starts to get fairly complicated. So then what we've done is to say, well, what does that mean in terms of what we're going to try and accomplish this year? And so I shared with you the draft parts of a district improvement plan that relate to student social and emotional learning and equity work. And that is informing the conversations I'm having right now, these weeks, with principals about their school improvement plans. And so I shared with you what that looks like, and I'd be very interested in your feedback. I didn't want to make it too prescriptive. Each school's going to do this differently, but I did want to make clear that I thought work in both of those areas was important. And finally, thinking about our work with the Equity Committee, to this one article I found that makes the linkage between equity work and social and emotional learning work. There was an accompanying piece about how to have conversations on this stuff between school leadership and people just like our Equity Committee. And so they've got these 5 different suggestions of ways you might start talking about this stuff together. And the Equity Committee might not be particularly interested in that approach. Sapphire and everybody else might have different ideas, but I just wanted to offer that as a vehicle for our dialogue, either as this group or with the Equity Committee or with the admin team when they come and so on. So those are just some ideas I've been kicking around I thought I'd share with you.
I think it's a good comprehensive packet as a beginning to learn more about social and emotional learning and school climate, how it applies. I think those are really important things to be looking at. Anyone else? So again, they're just kind of for reference at this point. Okay.
Thank you for taking this as your focus and starting the year with the theme.
Sure.
Okay, in that case, we're moving on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from the June 15 regular meeting, June 25th, I'm getting tired, and the July 2nd planning meeting. Would people prefer to approve them separately or together?
Separately, please.
Separately, okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 25th.
Someone?
Have they moved?
Who wants to second it?
I'll second it.
Bill, thank you.
Our
Bill
visuals are
seconded
busy
it.
writing, I guess.
Oh, that's right.
All those in favor? Any abstentions, anything? No, looks like it's unanimous, thank you.
Missing here.
The July 2nd minutes from the working session. Entertain a motion to approve those.
Someone?
Heather moved.
So,
Bill seconded, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, looks unanimous again, thank you. Any agenda requests, please? We will be planning for this very soon. Very soon. We'll be doing the planning within a couple days to allow for very soon. So let us know, and thank you so much, yes.
Still, Joni reminded me of it when she talked about school council. Still want to talk
Yes.
about doing something with them.
Yes, we do have that. What Michael and I are trying to do is keep a long-term list as well as short-term list, so things don't fall through the cracks. But please, we appreciate reminders, should we not, not have the cracks plugged. Well,
Thank you.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
okay, Heather, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? All right, thank you all.
Okay, and I just need one more signature on this warrant.
Yes, I think.